Hi, I'm Captain Larry Bell with Texas Fishing Tips. This is your weekly fishing report. Kansas River down here in Copano Bay, all the way down. Fish these guts. Fish these little sloughs that you have opportunities to get into, all the way down here to Swan Lake. Swan Lake's one of my absolute best and favorite areas to fish in Copano Bay. I love fishing in here. Get in the back here of Swan Lake. Work the back shoreline. Work out in the middle. Again, our tides have fluctuated so much back and forth all over the place. So sometimes it lends you opportunities to get in there, and sometimes it will not. You just have to pay attention to what those tide levels are. But if you can get back here on this back shoreline, there's been plenty of bait that's been working in lots of these areas. That's not a problem. Double D has been a productive bait for us this past week. Throwing some topwaters early. Now, I'm telling you right now, if you're going to throw a topwater, man, throw it. If you can be on the water before, 45 minutes to an hour before that sun pops, you're going to have an opportunity to get some opportunities at some nice fish coming up out of this shallow water here, working that shoreline. That water's really cooler during that time of the day, so those fish are a little bit more active, so you can get an opportunity with that topwater bait and have some nice topwater explosion and have some fun with it. Once that sun starts to pop, that topwater bite goes away. One thing that you can do with that, again, we're fixing to head into the new moon. So again, lots of things that come into play for you there. You can use bigger baits. You can use some smaller baits, kind of like what we're coming out of the transition phase or the wild card days where you kind of use a little bit of everything. You can start that way as we transition into the new moon, and then it'll kind of dictate to it if you pay attention to what the fish are telling you. These guts that come in between the Swan Lake mouths that go out to the Bay of Copano are good. The deeper edges of them have been productive. Grass Island, that area over there, has been pretty good around that on the deeper edges. And this drop that's out here, they got this whole edge that's out here. You got nice deeper grass, and that's where the Double D has kind of come into play. Working that deeper grass and getting it down to the top of that and letting it suspend and let it hang out right there. It's been productive for us. Again, the original size burner shad have been good, or the original size down south. The burner shad have all been good. Again, in this area here, still throwing a 16th ounce jig head. Don't want to. I'm not. The 1/8 ounce is still just too heavy for me to throw because I'm still just fishing waist deep in less water. So the 16th ounce still sets up perfect for what I'm doing. Come on down here to this point again. Get to the deeper edges. Right here off of the flat there, off of Swan Lake, you can work this whole edge, and this is where if you're an 1/8 ounce person or heavier, this is where that would come into play for you. You can throw that a little bit heavier, especially later in the morning when it gets warmer, sun gets up. We're still hovering in the water temps hovering in the mid to upper 80s, air temps in the mid to upper 90s. So those are all areas that you want to focus on later in the mornings as the day starts to heat up. These fish will move back off of the shallower waters and get into this little deeper water, and you can continue to locate your fish even later into the morning when the bites here lately, last week, the week before that, by 9:45, 10 o'clock, the trout bite was, for the most part, was done. You just weren't going to find, you might pull a straggler out here or there, but as far as quality bites that were going, it just wasn't going to happen. So what the deeper water allows you to be able to do is to continue to locate some of these trout that are in that slot range, that are up and down the shoreline, all around here, heading into Port Bay, even on around into the west shoreline. These are areas that you really want to focus on, that you want to pay attention to. Again, tides are fluctuating. Make sure that you're incorporating the majors and minors into the day, because that continues to help with the productivity of catching your fish. The darker baits, again, just pay attention to what the water clarity is. White ice has been good. In the burner shad, the twisted T, white ice in the burner shad has been good. Again, mud minnow and firecracker have been good as well. They have kind of lit that area up for me anyway. So have some of those in your box just in case. And any other flavor that you have that's pretty close to those, Little Johns are good as well. The translucent, golden red glitter have been good. Kitchen sink, which has got a lot of gold and black and white flake that's in it, but it's a translucent bait. It's been really good as well. So incorporate those into your fishing day, and you'll locate and find you some fish. Up here on Panther Point, down to Cedar Lake, Twin Lake, get in backside of Panther Lake there as well. Panther Reef, all these reefs that are out here in San Antonio Bay. If you fished out in San Antonio, you know there's multiples of them. You have to be careful when you're running through some of these, especially with the lower tide that we've had. They've kind of revealed themselves a little bit more so than what they normally would, but they have been very productive. There are fish, not on all of them, but they're on all of them on different points and times of whatever day, or certain times of the week, or certain times of the day that you will find some of these fish that are hanging out around these things, especially up here. As you're coming off the ICW, the reefs up there, you got Chicken Foot, and then you got a bunch of the individual reefs that are long, narrow, and skinny that run for a long ways back up in here into San Antonio. Come around off the backside of Mustang. We fished a lot of these areas there. You know, we're dropping our boat on one end of it. You have 2 or 3 people, and you know you might be 10 feet apart, but you probably can walk 500 or 600 yards down some of these reefs. You're not going to get any deeper than waist deep. Now, be careful as you get to the edge of these, because they go from waist deep to over your head in about 2 or 3 steps. So you want to be careful when you fish that. So what that lends you is this is where, I've been pushing been using strictly the 16th ounce jig heads, and this is where you can use your 1/8 ounce jig head if you would like to, and work it off these deeper edges of these reefs up here in San Antonio Bay, because with the deeper edges like that, sometimes these fish get down in that 4 to 5 foot of water, and to kind of help avoid some of the bait fish, skipjacks or whatever that are in there that constantly jack with you, pin perch and stuff like that, throw that little bit heavier jig head in there and get down to where those fish are hanging out, and it will help you locate them much quicker with less anxiety of having to worry about bait fish jacking with you. Working these edges, again, we've been throwing the original size, supermodels, burner shads, mainly off of these edges like this. You can throw the Marker 54 jerk shrimp. It's got a 1/4 ounce weight that's in it, so it really helps with that. They've got 2 different types of riggings. They've got the forward and backwards motion on those, so we've been using some of the backwards motions on these to really kind of make it look the bait is fleeing, or that shrimp is fleeing. So when you bounce those down that edge, you can help locate your fish, and you get some nice strikes with these. Again, we're working through a lot of these fish. Again, there's lots of 15s and 16s that are in the system. They're fun to catch, but I know lots of people want to take some fish home, and they're looking for that 17 to 23 inch fish. They are there. They're in there. You just have to take your time with locating. The biggest thing is that we're seeing lots of the fish that are in that 15 to 16 inch range, which is very good news that we are seeing this in the amount that we're seeing. So that means that next year these fish are going to be, they're going to be anywhere from 17 to 20 inches next year, so which is a really good thing. So we're enjoying seeing lots of fish and catching lots of trout that are in these areas up here. But again, at the same time, you're looking for that 17 plus inch fish. But continue to fish it. Continue to work it. There's some black drum that are scattered off with that you can catch. Yes, you can catch them. We catch them. We've caught a few off with the burner shad. We've kind of snagged them more than we've actually caught them, but we still got them. They'll eat the Little John. The Little John watermelon red has been good for us with that particular thing. If you're trying to target a black drum, yeah, you can get one, but I would not take that to be the area that you're going to try to target your black drum. You can get some off of there. They're there. But anyway, that said, trout are the main thing that we're targeting up here in these areas. So again, the burner shads, the original size, the supermodel, the jerk shrimp, the double D, working it off that. You can work that pretty hard. Again, it's only going to sink or go down so far when you work it, so it may not be quite as deep as what you want, depending on which reef that you're on up there. Some of them are a little shallower than others, and so you can work that over those shallower edges and tops of those reefs, and where the double D will come into play for you if you so choose. But that said, again, 1/8 ounce jig heads off the deeper edges, 16th ounce if you're still going to be fishing the shallower parts like I do, which that's what I enjoy doing the most of. Just, again, lots of patience up here. Make sure that you're incorporating that major and minor in there, and pay attention to your winds, because this is a lot of open bay stuff here. So if you get some, semi-rough or semi-high winds, it's going to rough all that water up out there, and it's going to dirty it up. So you're going to have something that's got a little chartreuse white, orange on the tail of it to help you locate if you're going to stay out there on those reefs during that time frame, which you can still catch fish during that time frame. But you just be aware of what's going on with your wind. So if you're going to target this particular area, make sure you take into your weather considerations. Long reef, all up in here. The deeper edge along reef, a lot of that is gone now because of Harvey did a number on that. I'm sure if most of you that have ever fished that, you'll know that by now. But you can drift this. Again, tides being what they are, fluctuating wise. Some of it you can wade. It might be a little uncomfortable if you do decide to wade. You might be in that upper belly, lower chest water. If that's okay, depending on your height. I'm vertically challenged, so I'm not a 6'4" guy by any means. So I have to be smart about where I stand out there. So anyhow, if you got some height to you, hey, that won't be a problem for you at all. If you're short like I am, then you have to be smart about where you go stand and where you're going to go fish on some of these reefs. But that said, there are some opportunities that present themselves out here on this reef. On Long Reef, on the other side there, you can wade all this area that goes right up to the ICW. Just be careful, don't go off in the ICW because that will be a long drop. But that said, get in here, locate your bait that's working out here over this. There's some nice shell here. There's nice grass that's working out here. There are opportunities to locate you some trout that are hanging out. An occasional redfish shows up. We have caught one or two out there on that reef like that. So they do get out there. Again, it's that cooler water that they're trying to get into with our temperatures being what they are. Again, our water temps are in the mid to upper 80s. And heading toward the 90 mark in some of these, but you can avoid that out there in this open bay system, especially with the ICW flowing through there. That helps keep that water just a little bit cooler. So those fish have a tendency to want to hang out there. So it's a great location, say midday. If you want to go fish, you can hit those reefs that are out there. And there's a lot of them that have been since eroded away over time from either Harvey or from water just being over them. So if you've got a newer GPS, there's some that they will show up on your GPS. You just make sure before you jump out of that boat that it is the depth that it says it is, so you might want to check that. Anyhow, getting back down here on top of the Mott, fishing down the Mott area, back toward the entrance into Fence and that area. This whole shoreline here as you head back toward Allen's Bight has been good. These fish have been holding it out there off the edges, off the deeper edges of the shell and sand that are out here. Locate, again, bait, man, there's just tons and tons of bait, so lots of competition, so you're going to have to really make your bait stand out. So one of the things that's been really good and productive for us has been the Little Johns in both the Golden Red Glitter, the Kitchen Sink, Purple Demon has been another one that's been pretty good. The Watermelon Red, it's almost just like a standby. It's kind of like what the Magic Grass is for me. It's just a good color that you can locate fish with it. Molting color is another one because our water clarity has been just that greenish gray kind of look to it. So it really stands out with that, with the gold flake and everything that's in it. So it's something, if you don't have one, you may want to check out some to get you one of those or a package of those. Anyhow, locating the shell, working these edges, working the guts, working shell grass pads. Again, the Double D has been good and productive. Depending on what time of day that you get there, you can use your topwater bait. Again, before that sun pops up, throw that topwater bait up against that shoreline about a foot of water and hang on and get ready, because you'll be pleasantly surprised at what you catch. There'll be some nice trout that'll be hanging up there. There'll be some nice redfish that'll be hanging in up there. And you may never know. You get a wild card fish. You never know. So anything, that's what's so cool about fishing in the salt water. You get lots of opportunities at things you didn't think you would get a chance at. But again, as that sun begins to rise and that water temp begins to rise as well, those fish will begin to pull off of the shallower water. So just keep that into mind when you do that. Again, shallower water up there, you're going to want to throw that 16th ounce jig head. And as you get out to, say, waist deep or deeper water, then you're probably going to want to put your 1/8 ounce jig head on there and continue to work that in those different sizes like that. Supermodel has been okay. Again, we're still catching the majority on our fish on 4-inch baits or less. So keep that in mind. Throw the bigger bait from time to time just to see. Sometimes the smaller baits are not working and being as productive. Put that bigger bait out, and that's what they want. So just make sure you keep some of those in your box so you have that opportunity. Continue to work all the way down, up and down, all the way down to Allen's, to Mud, all the way back into here. You've got opportunity. You've got back lake mouths there. We're trying to get some water back in here, and once we can, these back lakes are to really start to light up. You can walk into some of these and get there, but there's just so much grass, it makes it almost difficult to fish. It makes it really difficult to fish, not almost, but does. So it makes it really hard. So once we start to get some water to push back in here, then those back lakes will become in play again for us as well. If you get back into fence and some of the deeper lakes that are back there, if you've got that type of boat that you can do that, you'll have some opportunities back there for some trout, redfish, and black drum. So just areas that you'll have to explore and locate. If you've been back there enough, you'll know exactly where I'm talking about to get those opportunities. Again, majors and minors, so important, have been so important. Again, I've said it a couple of weeks ago that July and August are the two toughest months for guys and gals that throw artificial bait. So patience here and your expectations be tempered just a little bit, because you're just going to have to work harder at the artificial game to be productive with it. So don't let it discourage you. It'll just make you a little bit sharper and a little bit better for when September and October and November arrive. And then that's when the artificial game really starts to crank back up for us. But anyway, that said, continue to push these areas and work these areas, look for your bait, and you'll locate your fish. Thanks for watching. I'm Captain Larry Bell.